What if Anakin Skywalker never went to Mustafar? This is what we're going to go over today. I enjoyed this one a lot. Hope you guys enjoy it just as much. And let's get right into it. Folks, this right here is the Gold Eyes Saber from Onasaber.com. And I just really like this. And if you want to get it, hey, it's holiday season. You got to get a saber, right? It's a lightsaber. So go to their website and use code GOLD50 for $50 off of this saber. There'll be a link in the comment section, pinned comment, that you can click as well. Just click that. It'll send you right to the saber, where you can then use the code at checkout, GOLD50. Highly recommend it. Totally worth it. Alright, thanks. Back to the video. Our story begins with Emperor Palpatine sitting in his office, preparing his speech to the Senate. His new Sith apprentice, Darth Vader, just contacted Palpatine, saying the Jedi Temple has been wiped out, and he is ready to go to Mustafar. Sidious told him to wait in the temple, as he will be coming there himself, and Vader said, "As you wish, my master," and ended the call. Sidious prepared to leave when he was hit by a disturbance in the Force. He closed his eyes and reached out, trying to find this disturbance. He could not place it specifically, but he saw danger. Blue lightsabers clashing, red and green sabers clashing, the feeling of danger for Lord Vader. And Sidious decided that Vader would not be going to Mustafar. Something dangerous was approaching, and they would face it together as master and apprentice. Inside of the temple, Vader waited, looking around at the destruction that he and the 501st caused. Everywhere he looked, Vader saw dead Jedi of every age. Fires were spreading inside of the temple, and clones were helping their wounded, or making sure all of the Jedi were dead. As Vader looked around, he heard a faint, raspy voice. It was an older Jedi, lying up against a pole with a blaster wound covering his torso. The older Jedi said, "Skywalker, the chosen one?" What a joke. And Anakin reached out, crushing his throat with the Force. And finally, his master walked in. Sidious walked up to Vader, telling him he has done well, and then saying that plans have changed. Vader will no longer be going to Mustafar. Instead, he will stand in the center of the Senate pod with Sidious, as he declares himself Emperor to the galaxy. Sidious said the Senate must know who the true hero of the Empire is, and he told Vader that he sensed something was coming for them. Vader asked what about the Separatists on Mustafar, but Sidious had already assigned Commander Oppo to take 100 members of the 501st to Mustafar, wipe out the Separatists, and give out the shutdown command to the droids from the Separatist base. The Separatists would be taken care of in no time. Vader and Sidious walked together to a shuttle that would take them to the Senate building. Vader was in such a dark, blind rage that he barely could realize what was even going on, but it was time to create the Empire. Over the next few hours, the Sith Lords would prepare for the announcement, while Obi-Wan and Yoda arrived back on Coruscant with Bail Organa. The two Jedi learned that Palpatine would be announcing something important in the Senate, and this would allow the two Jedi to infiltrate the temple and shut down the retreat message. All surviving Jedi, if there are any, must stay away from Coruscant for the time being. During all of this, Padme Amidala was in her apartment, worried sick about Anakin. All she knew was that the Jedi Temple was under siege, and that the Jedi were all set to be executed for treason against the Republic. She could only hope that Anakin has done the right thing. And eventually, she took off for a Senate hearing with Bail Organa, who told her he found Yoda and Obi-Wan, but no sign of Anakin. And he also told her that Palpatine was the Sith Lord, playing both sides of the war since the beginning. And inside of the Jedi Temple, Yoda and Obi-Wan did what they must, having no idea what was truly going on in the Senate building. In that building, Padme watched as the bottom hatch opened to reveal the center pod. It began to rise, closer and closer to the middle, and shock ran through her veins. She simply could not believe her eyes. Standing tall on the right side of Chancellor Palpatine, the right side of the Sith Lord, was Anakin. She sat back, stunned, and she had a very bad feeling about this. As the center pod rose, Anakin turned to see Padme's section. He tried to smile at her, but she was so far away, and eventually, Palpatine began to speak. With his booming voice, Palpatine described how the Republic has stood tall for 1,000 years, keeping peace in the galaxy, and he went on to describe how all of them were deceived. The greatest threat to peace, freedom, justice, and security was always from internal, the Jedi. As the Senate murmured in surprise, Palpatine described how the Jedi tried to infiltrate his office and kill him, then take control of the Grand Army. And Palpatine said it would have succeeded, that he was moments away from being assassinated, but he was saved by the one Jedi he always trusted, the hero with no fear, loyal to the Republic above the traitorous Jedi Order, Anakin Skywalker. And the Senate erupted into cheers and applause. No Jedi was more famous than Anakin. Throughout the war, Palpatine had made sure any positive Jedi propaganda focused on Anakin, so when this day eventually came, the new Empire would embrace him. Once the cheering calmed, Palpatine said the Jedi uprising was stopped by Anakin and the clones inside of the temple, and clones across the galaxy defeated the rest of the Jedi. Any of the treasonous survivors will be hunted down and defeated. Again, cheers erupted throughout the building. Nearly every pod supported this, but in one of them, Padme and Bail sat stunned in silence. Padme couldn't believe what she was seeing, and Bail Organa had informed her that Palpatine was the Sith Lord. There was no denying the truth in all of this. Anakin has turned to the dark side. And it only got worse. Palpatine soon announced that in order to ensure a safe and secure society, the Republic will be reformed into the first galactic empire. Again, thunderous applause, and while everyone cheered, Padme and Bail stepped out for a moment, using their comlinks to contact Masters Yoda and Kenobi. Inside of the Jedi Temple, the Jedi Masters had just watched the security holograms, and they decided that they must destroy the Sith. Obi-Wan was heartbroken, but he knew the truth. Anakin, the boy he trained, was gone. He'd failed Qui-Gon, the Jedi Order, failed the galaxy. He told Yoda that he didn't know where to look, and a moment later they received a message from Padme and Bail. Check the Republic HoloNet. So inside of the security room, the Jedi turned on the HoloNet to read the headline, Palpatine describes victory over treasonous Jedi, and on the HoloNet, both Palpatine and Anakin stood in the center pod. The Jedi listened to the speech as Palpatine described the Jedi insurrection, and how Anakin stopped it with the help of the clones. Kenobi and Yoda were both stunned to hear the overwhelming applause as the creation of the Empire was announced. Defeated, they watched everything they fought for fall away, and they both knew their duty still remained: defeat the Sith. When it was all over, the new Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader waited in the bottom of the Senate building as Commander Appo contacted them. He said the Separatists were taken care of without an issue, and the droid shutdown command has been sent across the galaxy. The war is over. The Republic lost. The Separatists lost. The Jedi lost. The Sith emerged victorious. Once Appo ended the call, the two Sith Lords stood together as someone tried to enter the area. It was Padme, and the Red Guards tried to hold her back. Palpatine told Anakin to go to her, and so he did. But Padme stayed a safe distance away, asking what he has done. Why has he done all this? Anakin had a puzzled look on his face, as he said he did all of this for her and the children. Now the war is over, and they can all live happily together in a peaceful galaxy. Padme was backing up again, through the hall, saying she doesn't know Anakin anymore. And Anakin looked from behind her to see new figures appearing. Obi-Wan and Yoda. Anger filled Anakin's veins as he used the Force to grab Padme, calling her a traitor and throwing her against the wall as the Jedi walked up to him. Padme fell unconscious, and now Sidious stood with Anakin as the two Jedi entered, saying the rule of the Empire will die today. Sidious at the time of the Jedi has come to an end. The Sith took over years ago, and they were just too blind to see it. Sidious basked in the hatred and the anger that the Jedi were trying so hard to hide, laughing as the two Jedi ignited their lightsabers. Obi-Wan looked to Anakin, asking him what he has become, and Anakin said he finally sees the truth, finally sees it was the Jedi who stood in the way of peace, and he too ignited his lightsaber. Though there were 4 warriors in this room, it was as if a wall separated them. Yoda stared at Sidious, while Obi-Wan stared at Anakin. This has become personal for everyone involved, and in one moment, years of buildup came to this, as the two Jedi charged into battle against the two Sith. Darth Sidious blocked the flipping attack from Yoda, and the two of them went in one direction, while the clashing sabers of Anakin and Obi-Wan went the other way, towards the open Senate lobby. Yoda watched them go, committing to his own fight, as the two of them moved through the area. It was not simply Palpatine versus Yoda, it was the Lord of the Sith versus the Grand Master of all of the Jedi. 1,000 years of hidden Sith erupting in this moment as Palpatine yelled, "Your time is over. The Sith rule the galaxy, now and forever." The duel continued as Yoda tried to do whatever he could to make the statement be false, but the more Yoda fought, the more he realized the truth. The Sith had spent the last 1,000 years changing, growing, remaking themselves, studying every aspect of the Force, including the Jedi, preparing for this exact day, this exact battle. While the Jedi had spent the last millennium trying to defeat the Sith of old, the Jedi had not moved on. They'd been stagnant, stale, and now they were dying. Yoda was outmatched, but he had no choice but to fight, and so the lightsabers continued to clash as the two of them began to rise through the Senate on the center pod, light against dark. And across the building, just outside the lobby, Anakin and Obi-Wan battled in the Senate halls. Blade to blade, they were truly identical. After thousands of hours of lightsaber sparring, they knew each other as well as they knew themselves. In every exchange, Obi-Wan gave ground, allowing Anakin to push him through the building. They clashed against each other, sparks flying as the walls were scorched with their sabers. It was as even as a fight could be, and Obi-Wan was using the Force to throw lights and chairs at Anakin. Anakin was hit by one, but then used the Force to catch one, throwing it back at Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan slammed against the wall with a thud, moving his head just enough to dodge the thrown lightsaber from Anakin. Anakin twisted his hand to cut off Obi-Wan's head, but the Jedi Master dodged, getting back into a battle stance. Anakin called the saber back to his hand, staring down Kenobi. He said, "Don't make me destroy you, Obi-Wan," with a voice deeper and darker than anything Kenobi had ever heard. Anakin continued, saying, "You're no match for the power of the dark side," and Obi-Wan sighed, saying, "I've heard that before, but I never thought I'd hear it from you." And Anakin screamed in anger, flipping over Obi-Wan. But Obi-Wan elbowed him in the face, then used the Force to push Anakin into an open elevator. Anakin slammed face first into the elevator and turned just in time to see Obi-Wan grab a hold of the elevator wires and send it crashing to the ground below. Obi-Wan watched Anakin go, and was about to go make sure that Anakin was finished when he heard laughing and lightning in the distance. He gave one final look to the elevator and took off to help Yoda. Inside of the falling elevator, Anakin was dazed, but he managed to barely get up, cutting a hole through the top. He used his strength to jump through it at the last second before it exploded to the ground, and he was barely hanging on to a wire above all of the fire. With a grunt, he began to climb back up to finish the job. The Senate building was now a battleground. Sidious was throwing pods at Yoda, and the Jedi Master dodged as much as he could. Finally, he managed to jump up to Sidious, and now the two of them were caught in an exchange of Force lightning. Their eyes locked on each other, Yoda putting on a serious face, while Sidious laughed in amusement at the fall of the Jedi. And right as the lightning broke, Obi-Wan Kenobi jumped from out of nowhere, cutting across Palpatine's face. The Sith Lord fell off of the pod, screaming, landing far below in another one. Sidious got up slowly now to see Kenobi jumping down at him, but Sidious was not done. He turned, unleashed lightning more powerful than anything Obi-Wan had ever felt. Obi-Wan was blasted far away, crashing to the ground, and Sidious buried him in destroyed Senate pods. He was severely weakened by Obi-Wan, blinded completely in one eye, but his pain had given him power in that moment. Now he floated down to the ground to find Lord Vader entering the room. Anakin looked around as he entered to see an injured Yoda sneaking into a maintenance access port. Yoda thought Obi-Wan was dead, and he must escape to preserve the Jedi Order, but Anakin reached out, crushing the access port, slamming Yoda to the ground in front of him and Sidious. Yoda was slowly getting up as Sidious looked on at him, laughing again, and began pouring lightning into him. The pain, the anger, the hatred, it was beyond powerful, and Yoda was left convulsing on the ground. He was already very weak, and the lightning burned through him, slowly killing him. Sidious was blinded by years of anger, hatred, rage, the dark side surrounding him, and Anakin saw his opportunity. He never intended to leave Sidious alive, so as Yoda was taking his final breaths, Anakin ignited his blue lightsaber through the back of Sidious, cutting through his spine and his heart, and he fell to the ground, defeated. And now in front of Anakin laid the Jedi Grand Master alongside the Lord of the Sith, dead next to each other. Anakin felt his power, felt the dark side. He could do anything he wanted. Save Padme? Done. Lead the galaxy? Easy. Hunt down every Jedi? It will be done. And as he felt this power surround him, Obi-Wan began to climb out of the pile of destroyed pods that was covering him. He looked on with sadness to see that Yoda was dead, and Anakin standing above him. And he had nowhere to go, so he ignited his own lightsaber as Anakin walked towards him, saying, "This is the end for you, my master." Obi-Wan held up his saber as Anakin swung down with power, then knocked Kenobi's saber away, spinning his own behind his back, stabbing it through Obi-Wan's chest. Obi-Wan gasped and said, "I may be defeated, but it is you who will lose everything. I loved you," and he fell to the ground, dead. Anakin stood firm, but he didn't recognize any part of himself. Anakin truly was gone, and from behind him, a new voice. Padme had woken up, and she watched Anakin kill Obi-Wan. All she could say was, "Anakin," as she looked upon what was once the man that she loved. Anakin tried one more time to bring her back, saying he did this for her. Now, together, the two of them can rule the galaxy. Anakin moved in to embrace her, but Padme only stood in shocked silence. As Anakin approached, she knew what she must do. She grabbed her blaster, and in one swift motion, she fired at Anakin to kill him. But Anakin put his hand up at insane speed, holding the blast inside of her gun. Anakin closed his fist, and the blaster exploded, and once more, Padme was knocked unconscious. A moment later, members of the Coruscant Guards sprinted into the room, looking around, asking Anakin what happened here. Anakin could barely speak, but he managed to tell the clones that 2 Jedi snuck in and killed the Emperor. Anakin said he was too late to save Palpatine, but he managed to kill the Jedi. And he asked the clones for medical assistance, as the Jedi also injured Senator Amidala. Clones began a mad scramble through the room as Anakin stood completely alone. Everyone he ever loved was dead or hated him. Yoda, Obi-Wan, Palpatine, Padme, the entire Jedi Order was gone. He was alone, and he had 2 choices. He could leave everything behind, abandon a galaxy in chaos, or he could fully embrace the dark side and become the true Sith Emperor. The choice was made for him, though, as Commander Fox came up to him and said, "My lord, what is the next move?" And so Anakin Skywalker went to the Emperor's office, turning on the HoloNet recording device. He was now speaking live to every citizen of the Empire. He told them that Emperor Palpatine was assassinated immediately after his speech by 2 Jedi, Yoda and Kenobi. Anakin said these 2 Jedi were trusted by Palpatine. They were considered friends, but the Jedi were liars, and they survived the purge long enough to kill Palpatine. Anakin continued on, saying that he dealt with the Jedi. They are dead, but the loss of Palpatine will be so hard to overcome. There will be chaos, confusion, crime. So he will take the Emperor's place and use the clone army to ensure the galaxy is safe under a strict militaristic rule. Anakin said all he wants for the galaxy is safety, security, and peace for all of the citizens, and with the help of the military, this empire will be prosperous to each and every one of the citizens who choose to comply. He finished by saying, "Long live the Empire," and the recording was ended. Anakin Skywalker was the new Emperor of the galaxy. And over the next few days, Anakin would speak to high-ranking military leaders, including Tarkin, Yularen, and many others. They would help him lead the new empire, and every single system would have its own military governor. Clone production on Kamino would continue, and the galaxy would see peace by force from the growing military. The Empire would rise, and anyone who dares oppose it would fall. Padme Amidala would give birth to twins, with Anakin in attendance. Padme refused to look at Anakin, refused any sort of help, and when the birth was over, she died from her injuries, exhaustion, and without a will to live. This made Anakin sink even further into darkness, becoming the Sith Lord Palpatine always knew he would become. The galaxy would see peace for many years, as Emperor Vader ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. The clone army was under his direct control, while the Imperial military grew in size. Crime organizations were allowed to grow until they were threatening civilians, and then Vader would send in his army to defeat the criminals, making it seem as if the Empire truly was caring for its citizens. In the peace, Anakin used his army to outlaw slavery, taking over the Outer Rim, and he would raise his children in the luxurious Imperial palace, teaching them to become the heirs to his throne. And folks, that is our story for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Let's go over a few things. One, I've done very few stories where, I know this is going to sound shocking, but I've done very few stories where Anakin emerges victorious, not as a Jedi, but like emerges victorious as, say, the Sith Empire. It's something I think I've done once or twice, and I've made a lot of these. This was fun for me. I really had to find a way to have him defeat Obi-Wan, Palpatine, and Yoda. So having him kind of be defeated halfway through the battle with Obi-Wan throwing him down the elevator, and then Obi-Wan needing to go help Yoda, I thought that was good. Obi-Wan's death, he's able to cut Palpatine, but then Palpatine using all of his dark side power, he's able to, catch Obi-Wan by surprise with extremely strong lightning, throw him and bury him with pods. So when Obi-Wan does recover, he's pretty easily defeated by Anakin. And then Yoda being blasted by lightning, Anakin crushes the escape for Yoda, and then gets stabbed in the back. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's hard to have one guy just kind of emerge among the four of them, but that was the path I wanted to explore. I thought about some other things, but ultimately this was the path I enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought. This could have a part 2. So if this does good on views, there will be a part 2. I already have some in mind, so if you want that, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.